It breaks their heart that you finally discovered their secret. At first, they tried to make you feel paranoid, like you were imagining things. Gaslighting at its finest, an art form they mastered. Every slip of the tongue, every sideways glance, every conveniently vague excuse, all designed to keep you doubting yourself. But you didn't. Not this time. You noticed the patterns, didn't you? The way they clapped for you, but never too loudly. The way they celebrated you, but only when it didn't outshine them. Oh, they played their roles so convincingly, all smiles in public and subtle sabotage behind closed doors. And for a long time, you couldn't put your finger on it. You couldn't figure out why their energy shifted whenever you got too close to the truth. Then it clicked. They weren't rooting for you. They never were. In fact, the very idea of your success, of you breaking free from their invisible chains, terrified them, because your growth exposes their stagnancy. Your ambition highlights their complacency. And your resilience? It dismantles every excuse they've ever made for staying small. And now, they're scrambling. Are you okay? You've been acting distant. Oh, so now you think you're better than us? You've changed, and not for the better. The irony, of course, is that you have changed, just not in the way they want to frame it. You've stopped apologizing for dreaming big. You've stopped dimming your light to make them comfortable. You've stopped playing their game because you finally realized the rules were rigged from the start. And nothing terrifies them more than a player who refuses to play. But let's not make this all about them. Let's talk about you. The version of you that saw the red flags and decided to stop making bouquets out of them. The version of you that learned to say no without guilt and yes without hesitation. The version of you that walked into the fire, knowing full well you might get burned, and came out stronger anyway. They don't hate you, not really. What they hate is the reflection of themselves they see when they look at you. The dreams they gave up on. The risks they were too scared to take. The potential they buried in shallow graves marked someday. But don't let their heartbreak become your burden. You owe them nothing. Not an explanation, not a compromise, not even a seat at your table. Because the truth is, they'll never celebrate you fully until you stop threatening the lie they've built their lives around. And that's not your problem to solve. They'll try, though. Oh, they'll try to drag you back into the narrative where they are the heroes and you're the naive sidekick who doesn't know better. They'll lace their words with nostalgia, painting a picture of the good old days when you were still pliable, still dependent on their validation. Remember when we used to dream together, they'll say, conveniently forgetting that their dreams always required you to shrink. But you see through it now, don't you? Nostalgia is their weapon, a sweet-tasting poison meant to dull your edges and make you question your progress. But you can't unsee what you've seen. You've uncovered the secret they desperately wanted to keep hidden. Their entire strategy was built on the hope that you'd stay small. They wanted you to think the cage was a home. But here's the twist. They didn't build that cage for you. No, it was their cage first. They were prisoners long before they became wardens, trapped by their fears, insecurities, and the belief that success is a finite resource. They just couldn't stand to see you slipping through the bars. So now they panic. They whisper behind closed doors, plotting ways to clip your wings without looking like the villains. Maybe they'll try to discredit you, casting doubt on your talents. Maybe they'll spread little rumors, just enough to plant seeds of suspicion in others. Or maybe, just maybe, They'll try to reel you back in with fake support. "I'm proud of you," they'll say. But their eyes will betray them, scanning you for weakness, for a sign that you're still vulnerable to their control, but you're not. And that terrifies them more than anything else, because you've figured out their greatest fear, that you don't need them anymore. You've become the kind of person who doesn't wait for permission, who doesn't seek approval from those too scared to step out of the shadows themselves. And every step you take, every milestone you hit, is a reminder to them of what they could have been if only they had dared. And here's the kicker. They'll call you ruthless. You've changed. You're so selfish now. You're leaving everyone behind. But is it selfish to break generational cycles of fear and scarcity? Is it ruthless to refuse to be the sacrificial lamb for someone else's insecurities? No. It's survival. It's growth. It's freedom. And freedom always comes with a cost. The cost? Losing the ones who were never truly in your corner to begin with. But don't worry. The loss is theirs, not yours. The loss stings for them more than they'll ever admit. They'll watch from a distance, cloaked in silence or fake indifference as you climb higher and faster than they ever thought possible. You'll notice their absence in the moments they used to celebrate with you. Birthdays, milestones, triumphs. They won't clap anymore. Not because they don't see your success, but because it reminds them of their failure to hold you down. And that's the thing about people who fear your success. They want to keep you small because your growth puts a mirror in front of their stagnation. It's not you they hate. It's the reflection of what they could have been if only they'd tried. "I always knew you had it in you," they'll say to someone else, pretending they were never the ones who doubted you. They'll rewrite the history, casting themselves as the benevolent supporters who just wanted the best for you, when all they really wanted was to ensure you never surpassed them. But you don't have time for their revisionist narratives anymore. You're too busy rewriting your own story, one where you're no longer the victim or the villain, but the hero. And the best part? You're not even doing it to spite them. This isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Still, the universe has a funny way of making things poetic, doesn't it? Because as you rise, you become undeniable. Your success becomes so loud, so radiant, that even those who try to snuff it out can't ignore it. Imagine this. One day, years from now, they'll scroll through a timeline and see your face. A news article about your latest achievement, a clip of you speaking at an event, or maybe just a photo of you smiling, looking happy and free. They'll pause, their stomach twisting in knots. That could have been me, they'll think, but it wasn't. Because they were too scared to embrace their own potential, too busy trying to keep you in the shadows where they felt safe. The irony will hit them hard. But here's the beauty of it all. You won't even notice. You'll be too busy living, too immersed in a life so full, so unapologetically yours, that their opinions no longer carry weight. And that's the ultimate revenge, isn't it? Not the petty, vengeful kind, but the quiet, unshakable truth that you didn't just survive their attempts to hold you back. You thrived in spite of them. Shall we keep going? One day, you might bump into one of them. A chance encounter at a cafe. A random run-in at an event. They'll freeze for a moment, unsure whether to approach you or slink away unnoticed. But their curiosity will get the better of them. They'll muster a fake smile and walk up to you. "You're doing so well," they'll say, their voice tinged with something they'll call admiration, but you'll recognize as envy. "I always knew you'd make it." And you'll smile, not out of bitterness, but but because you've outgrown the need to prove anything to anyone. Thanks, you'll reply, your tone casual, almost indifferent. You won't stay long to entertain the awkwardness. You have places to be, things to do, and a life that no longer includes their subtle manipulations. But let's dig deeper into why this hurts them so much. It's not just about your success. It's about what your success symbolizes. It's proof that the limitations they imposed on you were never real. It shatters the illusion they clung to, the one where they were in control, where you needed their approval, where they were the gatekeepers of your dreams. Do you remember the stories they told you? The sly remarks that sounded like advice but were really designed to plant doubt? Are you sure that's a good idea? Not everyone makes it in that field. You're brave for trying, but they never thought you'd challenge their words, much less dismantle them. But here you are, standing tall, living proof that their whispers of discouragement were never truths, only projections of their own fears. And those fears, let's be honest, aren't your responsibility to fix. You spent enough time carrying the weight of their insecurities, dimming your light so they wouldn't feel overshadowed. That chapter is closed now. The funny part? Deep down they know they could have joined you. You weren't exclusive. You weren't gatekeeping the keys to growth. You might have even offered them a hand once, saying, "Let's do this together." But they chose pride over possibility, comfort over courage. So now they sit in the bleachers of your life, watching the game they could have played but didn't. They'll cheer quietly when you're far enough away, then scowl when no one's looking. It's a complex dance of admiration and resentment, and you're too busy scoring points to notice. You've become the very thing they feared most, a reminder that no excuse, no limitation, no fear is enough to stop someone who decides to rise. And then there it is, a quiet moment of realization. Not for you, but for them. The cracks in their facade grow wider. Their carefully curated personas start to collapse under the weight of your truth. It's not anger that breaks them. It's fear. Fear that you've seen through their games, their whispers, their endless need to control. You've ripped away the curtain, exposing not a great and powerful wizard, but a frightened, desperate shadow scrambling to maintain relevance. They thought they could hide forever, didn't they? Wrap themselves in lies, deflect with manipulation, and project their weaknesses onto you. But the truth, their secret, always had a way of seeping through the cracks like water. Do you feel it now? That shift? It's not just you rising, it's them falling. Their control was never real, only as strong as your belief in it. And now, it's shattered. So tell me, how does it feel to stand in the light, no longer weighed down by shadows? It's funny how their secret never stood a chance once you started to pay attention. The way they flinch when your name is mentioned, how their voices lower when they think you're listening. It's all so deliciously obvious now. They've spent years crafting a fortress of lies, each stone placed to keep you blind to one undeniable truth. They need you to stay small, because your growth shatters the illusion of their own importance. Picture them sitting in dimly lit rooms, hands wringing, trying to figure out how to keep you from realizing it. Maybe they even convinced themselves they were helping you. "I just want what's best for you," they'd say, while slyly moving the goalposts every time you got close to the finish line. It's pathetic, really. Like a magician terrified the audience will finally see the trick for what it is. A sleight of hand, nothing more. And now, now the curtain is drawn back, and they can't hide anymore. They see the shift in your eyes, the way you carry yourself, how your words cut through their manipulations like a blade through mist. They're scared, not because you're angry. No, anger they can handle. They've spent years training for that. What terrifies them is your calm, the way you've stopped seeking their validation, the way you no longer flinch when they throw their usual jabs. Do you really think you're ready for this? One of them asked not too long ago, their voice dripping with condescension. You didn't answer? You just smiled, a small knowing smile that said more than words ever could. That silence? It's the sound of their world crumbling. Because here's the thing about secrets. They only have power as long as they're hidden. And once they're exposed, they lose all their magic. You've exposed theirs simply by refusing to play their game. You've made their whispers irrelevant and their shadows impotent. Every step you take forward, every dream you turn into a plan and then into a reality, is another nail in the coffin of the illusion they tried so hard to maintain. Do they sit up at night now, replaying every interaction in their minds, wondering where they slipped up? Maybe. Or maybe they're too busy scrambling to build new walls, to create new distractions, hoping against hope that you'll trip up and fall back into their web. But here's the kicker. They're building on quicksand. Every move they make only sinks them deeper. And you're already miles ahead, walking toward a horizon they'll never reach. But don't pity them. Don't waste your energy hating them either. That's what they want. Your energy, your focus. Let them keep spinning their webs, trying to control the narrative. You've got better things to do. You've got empires to build, dreams to chase, and a destiny that doesn't include being anyone's pawn. Still, it's amusing to watch them squirm, isn't it? To see them try so desperately to hold on to the scraps of a game you're no longer playing. It's almost poetic. The same tricks they used to hold you back are now the chains they can't escape. And isn't that the sweetest irony of all? They forged those chains thinking they'd bind you forever. Every sneer, every backhanded compliment, every subtle act of sabotage, they were so sure it would keep you tethered. But in their arrogance, they never stopped to consider that their tools of control could turn into their shackles. Now, they're stuck, watching you rise while they sink further into the trap of their own making. Imagine their conversations now, whispers in shadowy corners, where they dissect your every move. How did we lose control of them? One might say, their voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. We did everything right, another protests, but the lie is so transparent, it hangs in the air like smoke. They know the truth. The game was over the moment you stopped caring about their rules. There's something satisfying about the silence you leave in your wake. They're used to you explaining yourself, justifying your choices, seeking their approval. But now, you've outgrown their need for understanding. When they ask loaded questions, you don't engage. When they try to bait you into old patterns, you don't bite. Your indifference is louder than any argument could ever be, and it terrifies them. They see you now, unapologetically carving out your own path, unbothered by their opinions. That's the thing about realizing someone's secret. It's like unlocking a door they thought would stay forever shut. Once you step through, there's no going back. They can't undo your growth. They can't unteach you the lessons you've learned. Do they regret it now? Maybe. Maybe they wish they'd supported you instead of stifling you. But it's too late for regrets. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them a chance to explain themselves or rewrite history. They made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. And you? You're just getting started. Every step you take now is yours and yours alone. Every victory is sweeter because it's born of your resilience, your determination. You're no longer living in reaction to their manipulations. You're living for you. Let them watch. Let them sulk, scheme, and whisper. Their fear, their anger, their confusion. It's not your burden to bear. Keep moving forward. Keep breaking barriers. Keep being the version of yourself they never wanted to see. Because at the end of the day, their secrets weren't about you. They were about their fear of your potential. And now, as you stand on the edge of everything you're about to achieve, they're left with nothing but their broken illusions. And you're limitless. The truth is, they underestimated you from the start. They counted on your silence, on your compliance, on your willingness to stay small. They thought the world they built for you was the only one you'd ever know, and that you'd never dare to peek beyond its borders. But you did. You dared to ask the questions that made them uncomfortable, dared to seek truths they worked so hard to bury. And that's when it all started to fall apart. You didn't just stumble upon their secret, you exposed it. You saw the strings they used to puppet you, the invisible chains they wrapped around your dreams. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. You couldn't pretend anymore. They banked on your ignorance. But now that you've discovered their blueprint, their entire game has collapsed. Why won't they just go back to how things were? You can almost hear them mutter to each other. But the answer is simple. Because you've changed. You're not the person they once controlled. You've evolved into someone they no longer recognize. Someone they can't predict or manipulate. Their fear of your success isn't just about envy. It's about what your success says about them. If you rise, it forces them to confront the reality that they've been wrong about you all along. That every time they said, "You can't," you proved, "I can." That every door they tried to slam shut, you found a way to unlock. And isn't it poetic justice that their greatest fear is you living unapologetically? Your ambition burns brighter than their doubt ever could, and your dreams are too vast for their limited vision. They hate that you've stopped asking for permission to exist. They hate that you no longer seek their validation. But most of all, they hate that their opinion no longer matters to you. Let them sit with their discomfort. Let them wrestle with the realization that they were never the gatekeepers of your destiny. They built walls to keep you in, but they never realized those same walls would keep them out. And here you are now, standing on the precipice of a new chapter. The air is different up here, cleaner, lighter. You can finally see how far you've come, how much you've grown. The people who tried to dim your light can only squint in the glow of your brilliance. They can't touch you anymore. So what's next? Whatever you want. There's no roadmap, no ceiling, no one holding you back. For the first time, you're not living in reaction to their doubts or expectations. You're creating a life that's authentically yours, filled with purpose, passion, and the kind of freedom they'll never understand. And the most satisfying part? You didn't just survive their schemes, you thrived despite them. You turned their obstacles into stepping stones. You proved that no amount of manipulation, no level of deceit could keep you from your destiny. This is the end of their narrative and the beginning of yours. The chapter where you stopped being the underdog and became the trailblazer. The story where their secrets lost all power and your truth became unstoppable. Take a deep breath. Look ahead. This is your moment, not theirs. And so, you walk forward, head held high, heart unburdened, and mind sharp. They may watch from the shadows, but you're already too far ahead for their whispers to reach you. You've won. Not because you defeated them, but because you finally realized you never needed to play their game in the first place. Here's to 2025, the year you soar beyond their reach, unshackled and untouchable.